We are at the Retul Lounge in Boulder, Colorado, joined this morning with Nick Frey from Boo Bicycles, and James Wolf from Vietnam is dropping in via Skype. Good to have you with us, James. Thanks for coming, Nick.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to thank our wonderful supporters, Scratch Labs, great folks here at Retul, of course, and Pactimo, Pactour, Cali Protectives, and Core Power. Nick, you've had one heck of a busy week.
Yeah, I just got in last night about 10 hours ago. So we were out showing off the new Aluboo at Princeton and to a few different magazines. And we have a Kickstarter running right now, so we're trying to really spread the word.
What exactly is a Kickstarter?
Well, it's essentially a way to sell something that doesn't yet exist. So certain companies will just have an idea and they will talk about it, they'll create a cool video hopefully, and people can pre-order the product or the service, or it's essentially a funding platform where people can buy things before they're in existence, so that that company can then get the revenue up front to be able to actually go into production. We're a little bit further along than that. We already have a full production bike. We're actually moving into full-scale production right now. James is coordinating that, and so we're a little bit ahead of where a lot of companies might be on Kickstarter, but it's still a great way to get bikes in the hands of a lot of new people. And folks on Kickstarter tend to be early adopters, which means they're really open to new, innovative ideas. And that's definitely our bike.
So Alibu, who came up with the idea of combining bamboo with aluminum? This is going to be a long, jumbled question. James, as a frame builder, what were you thinking when they said aluminum and bamboo, let's do it?
Well, I'll tell you how this started. I mean, to go back to Nick and I have been making these Boo bikes for about 5 years, and you know, they're really great bikes, and they're performing really well, and people really love them. But at the price tag that they come at for a full custom bike, there's a lot of people that want them, but it's really not in their budget. So we're like, how can we get a really cool bamboo bike, the same ride quality, the same bamboo, blah, 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 at a price that can reach more people? And basically, we have to take out the element of custom geometry and design a few sizes of bikes that fit most people. And then there's an economy of scale in the manufacturing where you get almost the same bike without custom geometry at a much cheaper price.
Yeah, I mean, we really want the two bikes to be separate audiences. The Boo custom bike it's a really, really top bike. A lot of our customers are die-hard Colnago riders, or Serrata, or some of these other super, super cool custom handmade bike companies, and they get our bike and they actually like it better, or it's a different, like, incredibly smooth ride that they're drawn to. And so the Boo custom bike is always the pinnacle for us. But what we're trying to do with Alibu, as James was saying, is essentially take a lot of that technology and figure out ways to manufacture it differently, so you can have this great ride quality and still a high performance bike. It's not a full custom race bike, but it's a very, very top quality product, and reduce the price such that a lot more people can get one.
What got into you guys where you're like, you know, let's take bamboo and really combine it and see how it works with other materials? Tell us what happened to North American Handmade Bicycle Show. Gosh, I always want to say national. With the bike I fondly call the Booty, because how can you combine Boo and TI?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was overwhelming. You guys did an amazing job on that.
Thanks, George. You know, we started out, James and I, just doing bamboo and carbon fiber, and actually one of our earliest prototypes, James will laugh with this, I used a hemp fiber and a sisal, and we tried different alternative materials, and I actually ripped one of the head tubes off the bike. That was like the last time we ever did that. So we decided early on that carbon fiber and bamboo, they're both composite materials, and they're both unbelievably stiff, lightweight, strong, responsive, all that stuff. However, for this show, you know, every NABS, North American Handmade Show, it's just an all-out like push to do something you haven't done before. And you're trying to push the boundaries with what you can do as a frame builder, as an engineer, every year. And you'll see some of the most innovative stuff in the world in the bike industry right in wherever that show happens each year. So one of the things we did last year was we started to incorporate more carbon fiber. And we wanted to make the bike even stiffer and lighter, but still incorporate a whole lot of bamboo, like the main tubes are all still bamboo, in order to have the great ride quality. Well, this year, we knew we were bringing out the Aluboo, and aluminum was chosen essentially because it helped us reduce our cost a lot while still having good performance. And I'm thinking, man, why not start having bamboo mixed with all of the different types of materials that you can work with? And you have different pros and cons for each of your materials, but in the end, we're always going to be making hybrid bikes. They're not bamboo bikes. They are bamboo and something else. Bamboo and aluminum, bamboo and carbon, bamboo and titanium.
Maybe 100 or 200 years ago, started to make a tube in steel or whatever the first tubing was, and you know, in carbon maybe 20 years ago, and in titanium maybe 30 years ago, and in aluminum maybe 50 years ago. And so we've only been improving on this for decades, where this tubing that's made by nature has been you know, naturally improved for millions of years. And that's kind of interesting. I'm always thinking about different angles.
Yeah.
That was a recent thought. I'm like, you know, nature has just made this better and better for millions of years to do its job, to grow really tall and not break when the wind blows and things like that.
Yep.
But it's really difficult, because if somebody needs, you know, Reynolds or this or that, or 6061 aluminum tubing, they just, you know, you can buy 100 feet of it. It's all consistent. Like almost every foot of it is, well, all of it, like 100% is the same and usable. But when I'm harvesting holes for a bike, it's really hard because, well, I know the design of the bike because Nick provides that to me. But then there's all these factors like the size of the rider, his weight, the size of the frame, the length of the tubes, how aggressive they are, what they're going to use the bike for. And all of these factors go into other things that other bike builders don't have an opportunity to factor in, like exactly the outside diameter and exactly the wall thickness. And in each pole that comes out of the ground, it will start at maybe 2.5 inches and taper as it goes up. And somewhere along that taper, I can find the outside diameter that I feel is appropriate for each tube in the bike. And that's really, really different and really challenging, because compared to other materials where people can get hundreds of feet of a consistent everything, I may have to sort through hundreds of feet to find 2 feet that I really like for a bike.
How long does it typically take from the time you plant a bamboo seed until you can harvest it to use for a bicycle?
Well, when you plant a bamboo plant here in this country, it grows in a clump. So it doesn't spread like the invasive kind. It grows in a clump and it just gets bigger like a bush. When you plant that plant will live for about 100 to 150 years. And every year a bunch
I didn't even
of
know
shoots will come out. And you can just keep cutting the same plant, and you can keep taking poles off of it every single year. That's where the sustainability comes in, where it just takes
I was going to say,
I get tubes every year.
Yep.
But the age, the bamboo wood that I will harvest will have shot up 3.5 years ago. So I'm looking for, there'll be a clump, and the clump might be 10 years old or 20 years old. But what I'm looking for are the shoots that came up 3.5 years ago, because they'll never get better than that. The quality won't ever get better. Younger is inferior and older is inferior. So it's about harvesting it at the best age that it can, the best age at the best quality that it will ever be, which is 3.5 years.
James, I know you've got some other things you've got to take care of this evening. I appreciate you taking the time to visit with us. I'd really like to connect with you in the next month or so and actually have you take a camera and walk through the plantation with us so you could show us some of the bamboo that you're using. I'd love to see that if possible.
Sure, George, you can Skype me anytime, and I can take my little iPad through wherever and shoot you video if that would work.
Absolutely, deal. Thank you very much, James Wolfe.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you very much, George, for having me on the show.
Have a good night. James Wolfe, bike designer. Nick, you're the designer. Sorry, frame builder for Blue Bicycles. Skyping
James
in from
has
Vietnam. Thanks,
better
James.
ideas than I do.
That was James Wolfe, Skyping in from Vietnam. Is he your designer? Do you mostly do all the design work?
You know, as much as I am kind of expanding the company, the things I will always concentrate on are working directly with customers to design their frame geometry and to design the entire bike. Those are the two things that take a whole lot of experience, and we've done over 200 custom bikes from scratch, and I don't want to ever step out of that process.
See, he had mentioned you as the businessman. I always thought you were the rocket scientist.
Well, there's not, you know, he's a lot of the rocket science, honestly. I still do a lot of the business type of stuff, but my background has nothing to do with business. It's mechanical engineering. So we're a very, very product-driven company. You know, we don't really pay anything for advertising. I don't really know anything about business. It's just, you know, what I've kind of learned from being a customer. And like, when are you an excited customer versus when are you really angry about what a company's done or how they've handled your service or whatever. And so it's a lot of kind of commonsensical type of stuff. I've always focused on taking the technology and making it a race level bike, and then taking that race level bike that's Boo, and now we're trying to take a lot of the best technology but trickle it down to something that is much more affordable. And James will come up with a whole lot of creative improvements that I never would have thought of, and then I'll tweak them and say, oh, that's a great idea, like let's modify it this way. And I think focusing on the product exclusively has gotten us a slower growth rate, but we've made sure that the bikes are just killer. And now we're at the point where I'm starting to transition a lot more towards how do we get more people to know about these, because every customer is like, man, I have no idea how I was like on the fence about this. This is the best riding bike I've ever been on.
We don't have a whole lot more time. Something you just said really resonated with me, though, and there's a couple other things we got to touch on before we sign off.
Sure.
But that was excitement as a customer, and there's a lot of excitement from you all at Boo about the Aluboo.
Yeah.
What is it about it that is so exciting for you? I mean,
Well,
you do. There's just a lot of energy
yeah.
there when we saw you at NABS.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, we built this bike up literally less than a week ago. We built it up in the Boo shop, burning the midnight oil, kind of like figuring out all the different tweaks to make on it, because these are the samples we're going to use to go into full production. And it's always a nerve-wracking process when you've spent months designing and engineering something, and then you have it in the flesh, and you're like, is it as good as I'd hoped? And it's actually a lot better. And I think I'm excited because I've actually done some group rides on this thing. And I'm like thinking, oh, you know, it's a commuter bike, it's a fixie, it's not really like meant for entry-level racing or group rides or anything like that. I'll be damned, but the bike is good for a whole range of things that any other bike in its price point, I've never seen something that can do that. And so I think a lot of the excitement is just that we're going to take, thousands of fans of Boo who are not customers because they don't have the disposable income sitting around, and we're going to hopefully get them to see the light.
Now, you took your sample bike out to the East Coast, and editor of Rolling Stone is going to be riding it around for a while?
Yeah, he was super keen on it. One of my good buddies, Brad Ford at Bicycling Magazine, liked it. We're just really excited to show the bike to magazines that probably are just seeing the same thing every year, honestly, with a different paint scheme, and trying to figure out new ways to talk about the same stuff. And there's small tweaks, and but when you look at the road bike industry especially, there's not a whole lot of innovation, like big groundbreaking innovation. There's a big leap and then 10 years or 15 years of small changes. And with us, what we're trying to do is say, look, carbon fiber's been around since the mid-90s. It's been a big thing since then. It's about time for something new. And we really think that this material is not something that's going to take over from carbon. It's not going to be raced in the Tour, at least right now in its current form. But it's actually better for what everyone that's not racing in the Tour is actually trying to do on their rides. And I think that the big publications are kind of seeing that, and they're excited about something for the first time in a while. You can see it.
And when's the Pro Tour team gonna be out?
Let me set a date that is far enough that I'm not worried for the next year. I'll say 2020.
All right. Well, I got to thank Nod and Rose for making me look presentable. Appreciate the clothes, guys. And that's great. They're really excited about getting their stuff out to the cycling community, and they wanted to hook up with our show. So thanks to Nod and Elizabeth. And Nick Frey, thanks very much for joining us and bringing your gorgeous new Alibu out for us to look at.
Well, thank you, George.
Appreciate having you here at the Athletes Lounge at Retul and Retool TV here in Boulder, Colorado with Over the Top Productions. I'm George Thomas.